Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play LOTRO with me, Balthelion. So today we find ourselves with our friend Dagras over here. We are outside the walls of Isengard.
The Grey Company is grateful for your aid.
And he's going to send us on now to a new quest hub, meeting a new certain individual. While I was scouting to the east of here, I thought I saw some kind of movement among the trees upon that slope, but I could find no figure moving about, nor any tracks to indicate what it might have been. Okay, I can understand you not seeing this individual, but I'm going to take discrepancy about the tracks when we see who it is. I have a growing suspicion what it is, though, and it may be much to our advantage. This may sound queer to you, but I suggest that you carefully gather up some of the seedlings trying to gain purchase in the devastated Vale, and carry them with you up towards that ridge. And if I were you, I would handle them with the utmost care. So he does know what we're going to find over there. But he's playing it a bit coy, because given what we're going to find over there, you'd expect it's going to leave some pretty big and obvious tracks, but whatever. So, we need to cross over the river now, and in this little nook over here we're going to find loads of seeds, which it will be much to our benefit if we have our floating names on, so we can find stuff a bit easier. But while we're going around gathering some seeds, we should probably talk about the Legendary server, because there's been some literally breaking news just before I sat down to record this episode for today. But for those of you who haven't been following the announcements as to when it's coming, so about a week ago, probably a week last Friday, they accidentally announced a date, which didn't appear to be the date, because it was the way they were counting down the updates on Twitter made it sound like Tuesday the 13th of November would have been the correct date it was going to release, because they were counting down one update a day in reverse order. It should have been Tuesday, November the 13th. But buried in one of their tweets when they were counting down the updates, they said, as we march towards the Legendary server launch on November 6th, we look at another epic battle. The Siege of Minas Tirith from Update 17. You fought to hold the city gates against the Great Siege Ram Grond and the Witch King of Angmar himself. Blah, 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 blah. So, that, yeah, just buried in that tweet, it's just like, oh, November 6th is the date it's coming then. So everyone was like, okay, that was unexpected. However, they backtracked on that a bit later, earlier last week. But they played it down by saying, a tweet sent by our LOTRO account on Friday afternoon contained an erroneous release date for the Legendary server. We apologise for the error. No formal release date has been announced other than November. So everyone's immediately thinking, okay, it's probably going to be considerably later in November. Maybe like literally the middle of November, late November. So probably like a couple of weeks away. And then they kind of changed their mind again, sort of. Because literally just before I started recording this, today on Monday, they have tweeted and also put this news in the launcher and so forth. We are pleased to announce that our first ever Legendary server for the Lord of the Rings Online will open to the public at noon Eastern. So that is -5 GMT. Because I believe America's put their clocks back now. So we're back in sync for those of us in Europe. On Thursday, November the 8th, we are also announcing the server's name, Anor. For more information, visit LOTRO Legendary, blah blah blah. So they haven't actually released any new news in that FAQ article that we've talked about previously in the video that I was talking about that on. But it's interesting, and there's nothing particularly groundbreaking about that name. I thought they were going to choose something a bit more standout. But for those of you wondering, that is Anor, however you want to pronounce it, without the R. So we're not talking about the partner kingdom to Gondor. It is in fact Elvish, and it is basically, it means the sun. So you probably most know the word from the bit where Gandalf's fighting the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, where he goes, I'm a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor.
I am a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor. Dark fire will not avail you! Flame of Udun!
It basically means he wields the light of the sun, like the pure good lightness, presumably in contrast to the Balrog's evil dark fire lightness. But yeah, so it's named after that. So it's also potentially also a reference to Laurelin, because I'm trying to look at my notes as well while I'm running around. The light of the it could be it's a reference to the light of the sun, which originated in the fiery fruit of Laurelin, one of the 2 trees of Anor. So Laurelin being the gold tree, and is it Telperion? Off the top of my head was the silver tree, from which the white tree of Gondor eventually came from. Many generations removed. So it's an interesting name. Obviously, I think it would have been disastrous if they decided to announce it was going to use one of the names of a server that had already existed in the past. Because I think people who were refugees from those servers, when those servers were merged into the servers that currently exist, probably wouldn't have taken that too kindly. I know I'd probably be one amongst them. If Snowborn was picked as that, but I was expecting them to pick something maybe a bit more dramatic, shall we say. That was fairly mild, really. But there you go. So that's the announcement anyway. So that is this Thursday for those of you not sure what date it currently is. So -5 GMT at noon. So for those of us in the UK, that'll be 5 PM. For those of you in Europe, that'll be 6 PM. Possibly a bit later if you're in Eastern Europe. These seedlings are always a bit of a bugger to find. There's one. If you want to get on there, start making your characters at the very least. I'm sure I'm probably not the only one, but sometimes when you're naming a character, it can be a pain because all these names have been used previously. Particularly if you want to stay somewhat true to lore, so like female hobbits are generally named after things like flowers and gems. You can get in there pretty quick and bag some of those common name flowers that you wish you always had, So if you're going to do that, you probably want to get on there as quickly as possible, bag your names, or bag the same names as the characters that you use on the normal servers, if you'd like to use those ones again. I'm kind of a bit torn between that, because to me, naming a character is a big thing for me. I will literally spend hours on character select, trying to think up a nice unique name, and I get really attached to that name, and all of a sudden it's probably taken, no my luck, but I try and come up with something unique that isn't taken. And that is kind of sacred then, and the character itself is sacred. I'm not one of those people that would go around and delete their characters if they died before level 20 and didn't get the Undying title, because this character exists. They are kind of like almost like a real person, dare I say it. There we go, we've got our 8 now, so we can actually head east. So each character's, once they're kind of like enshrined and born, if you will, it's very much that. Can I get through there? I can get through there. There we go. So yeah, we're heading over to the east, behind this great big rock over here, and there's one little tree that's still left. Or a little, actually more than one tree, but one tree on the map, which is called Quickbeam's Grove, so you can probably guess where this is going. But the fellow here that we're going to meet is Quickbeam.
You are far from home.
And I'm not going to read this at true end speed, otherwise we'll be here for like a couple of episodes. Farewell, little orc. You have chopped your last tree. Hum. One moment now, Trum. Perhaps I've been too hasty. You are not an orc, are you? Even if you do rather look like one. Elf, you say? Well, then, that is new, then. And what do you have there? Why, I know these little ones. I raised their mother down in the vale, before the orcs came with their axes. You had best introduce yourself then, little elf. So even an elf who lives for donkey's years, that the Ents who are also long-lived can have some kind of relationship with, rather than the lives of men or hobbits and even dwarves, really, that are just kind of sort of gone in a flash to an Ent. But yeah, they're still going, you live too quick. Nope, I'm too far away.
Stand now and rest a while.
Those thrice cursed Burarum.
Have you with the Ents?
Stop doing your voice when I'm talking. Those thrice accursed Burarum, those orcs, have slain virtually every tree within the Vale of Nankurir. Why, I knew this one beach. Him and his beaches. Barely 50 years old, mind you, down by the river that they just... No, I shall not disturb you with the terrible details. Let us just say that I am in a mood to tear a few branches off these Burarum and see how they like it. Perhaps you might help. Perhaps you would punish the orcs for me. So accept that.
You should not be giving your right name away like so.
So we're going to have a couple more quests as well. These little orcs seem without number. As each one falls, another runs to take up the axe and continue cutting. It may be that their tools are worth more to Saruman than their lives. Without them, they cannot fell the trees. Perhaps you could gather their axes and hatchets and hurl them into the same fires upon which they burn the fallen trees of Nankurir. Let us see these Burarum cut down trees with their bare hands. So collect 10 hatchets.
Let's not be hasty.
Though I dare not reveal myself yet, these little Uruks are not much of a threat to me, even if their axes do sting a bit. But they have constructed engines that can hurl great bolts, often set aflame. These things could seriously harm even an Ent. There are ways to deal with such things, however. Take these seeds. They have been bathed in one of my Ent drafts, and bury them beneath each of the engines. They will not threaten us much longer. So plant seeds beneath Ballista, and we're going to sabotage them. So there we go. So we've got 3 quests, and we are now going to head to this camp on the eastern side. So if we carry on mounted, yeah. So I might see if I roll a new character on this legendary server. I'm still undecided. It might be nice to do it just for a bit of casual leveling, and maybe just join some randoms, or like a little casual kinship over there. Maybe even record some instances and stuff. That would be nice to record some bits and pieces over on that server, and maybe I'll bump into a few of you guys on that server, for those of you that don't play on Laurelin, which is where our kinship is, which is one of the 2 English language European servers, for those of you who don't know, and it's the one that has it used to be the roleplay server for Europe English language, but now it's a bit more sort of roleplay encouraged. I mean, it's never mandatory to roleplay. And we completed our deed there because we've just discovered the Black March Fort. But yeah, it's never mandatory to roleplay, but they were a bit more stricter in their restrictions. So you couldn't have characters that had stupid names like Pew Pew, Death Killer, that kind of stuff. You had to have kind of like names which could be realistic and could potentially exist in the particular world of Middle Earth. And generally, just you didn't have to roleplay or participate in that kind of thing, but you had to be respectful of those around that are roleplaying, and you still do really. But let's say the quality of names has gone downhill, because you do see some names that wouldn't have existed back in the day, shall we say. So we're going to make our way through this camp. Now, there's several rings of fortifications as we make our way through. Probably the thing I'd probably compare this camp to is the camp in Balthelion in the North Downs. It's kind of like structured, sort of going up a hill, where there's various gates that you can go to get further up the hill, and there's multiple ways you can get down, so don't worry too much about going any particular direction, just kind of pick up items as you see fit. So I would normally have gone left, but as we can see, we've got a couple of ballistas over in this direction, so we'll make sure we grab these. Oh, look at that big clonk he just did over my head. It's left me concussed. Alright, so where are you? So this will be 3 ballistas, 4 ballistas. I think there's a 5th one out that side as well. In fact, in which there might be one down there. There's a hatchet there. So I think we can get... Do we get some hatchets from... No, we don't get any looted. Okay. So we have to kill the people who use the hatchets, but we collect the hatchets separately, just to really confuse matters. And I'm not really sure I'd call that hatchet. That's more like a proper battle axe, but whatever. Maybe this guy just because he's going to end up aggroing anyway. Come on, sir. Come closer. But as you can see by their little bubbles, these guys have quite a few different buffs and whatnot. So we've got that, we've got that, and we got that. So that doesn't help. So they have an aura, and I think they can share their aura with everyone else. But yeah, increases damage 10% and decreases incoming damage by 5%. So I mean, back in the day, that used to be a bit more significant. You'd approach the buffed Uruks with a bit of caution and respect. These days, it's pretty much, I don't want to say a joke, but, you know, it's something they're aware of. They did actually acknowledge this as well. I can't remember when they were talking. I think it was when they were talking about balancing on the LOTRO forums and talking about balancing the mid game recently. One of the devs had commented that they kind of acknowledged that the mid game has been overly easy for quite a while now, and they're aware of that, but they're not necessarily in a mind to fix it, because for a lot of players who enjoy the kind of easiness of it, they don't think it needs to be fixed. Other players, understandably, would like a bit more of a challenge. But they're kind of stuck in a bit of a situation now where half the people would like it harder, half the people like it as it is. So, you know, there's no solution that's going to please everyone, and that's kind of always been the case, really. Actually, it's a hatchet here. So that's why they've kind of like tried to accommodate both kind of play styles over the years. Like when West Gondor came out, they had a whole area at the end of the region, Tarlang's Crown, which was basically dedicated to some proper difficult like group content. So you'd have to go in there, probably like usually at least a group of 3 would be nice, you know, even fellowships and full raids even. Just go around there, have a stomp around the region, complete your quests, farm the mobs for all kinds of drops, as tends to be the case. But oh, that's a corpse, not a hatchet. Oh, well, that's a hatchet. But yeah, they've tried to do that, and you know, that's generally been a better way of doing it. When they kind of put in other stuff like the roving threats, which they retroactively applied these huge. I think when they were introduced at level 100, they're like generally about 1 million morale or something like that. Level 100 mobs that were pretty nasty, and they originally were only in level 100 areas. Then they retrofitted them to various other lower level regions around the world. So, you know, the likes of Anor and so forth. And then poor, unsuspecting, you know, newer or less experienced players would just wander around and they'd be like, "Oh my god, what is this level 100 mob doing in my level 45 region?" Yeah, so at the expense of making a couple of unsuspecting players get ganked horrifically and probably one shot as a troll pummels them into the ground like a fence post. It was just one of those things for high level players to do, kind of like on a bit of a world tour, killing various mobs for the gift givers brands and all other manners of goodies and whatnots. There we go, that's the last one we want. So this will be 5 ballistas. Let's gather all these guys up once they've finished disarming me. Can I have my sword back now, please? Thank you. Okay, one of them's decided to reset. Okay, I've got my sword back and he's instantly disarmed me again. God damn it. Stop disarming me. It's not stuns, it's disarms in this region. There we go. So get the last ballista. I don't know how we're meant to plant a seed in a rock underneath a ballista in order to sabotage it with fast growing vines and whatnot. But whatever. So there's another hatchet over here. So there are some trolls in this camp. We'll have to come back in a minute actually to kill some trolls for a follow-up quest. We still need a couple of woodcutters. So not every mob that we've been aggroing has been in vain. So there's 2 here. If we aggro this guy, put him over to these 2, and we can kill you 3, and then that's 10. And you've disarmed me, or stunned me even. Probably I should have interrupted you, but I'm not going to be able to interrupt all 3 of you. So, God damn it! Stop it! Stop doing it to me. At least if I like get you some bleeds and some of you guys, you can at least bleed to death while I'm stunned and disarmed. Right, so that is all the woodcutters, so that's ready to go back. That is the last hatchet. So we need to throw the axes into a bonfire in the Uruk encampment. Any bonfire will do, it doesn't have to be this one. But any of these you see around, they should now be glowing. You can chuck them in there. I'm not really sure that's an efficient way of destroying these because, okay, the handle's wood, but the blade's metal, and the fire's not going to be burning hot enough to melt it or deform it in such a way that it's going to make it unusable. So it's a bit suspect, shall we say, the method of destruction. But yeah, so we're going to make our way back to Quick Beam though. But that's probably been long enough for one episode, so I think we'll leave it there then, and next episode we will pick it up at Quick Beam. So until then, see you guys later.